there's no sin. But there's no punishing God on high that punishes you for your sins that you need to atone for. And in fact, when Jesus would heal people and he would say to them, now go and sin no more, what he was referring to was, now go and do not continue to think and behave the way that you did before, that caused your illness and that caused your sickness within you. Not because there will be some punishment from some God on high, but because you punish yourselves when you do these things. This is why these people came and they were ill and he healed them. It is because they were, air quotes, sinning. So just let me explain what that sinning actually is. So Jesus also talked about reaping and sowing. He said this, it was very clear, that you reap as you sow. And he said that you store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. So if you reap as you sow, then this is talking about, the whole doing unto others as you would have them do unto you. Right? And why? Why did he say that you reap as you sow? Because you actually do. You have a karmic debt that you pay when you do something. So if you do something to somebody else, you are going to have to pay for that. And at some point, that thing that you did to somebody else, something similar, will come back to harm and wound you. The same way that you harmed and wounded someone else. It's not going to be the exact same circumstance. Let's say that you did this to that person and it made them feel this way. Well, if they did it to you, maybe it wouldn't have the same effect. No, something that is of equal vibrational frequency is what will return back to you. This is the cycle of it. So you are not going to be punished from some God on high. You are punishing yourself when you do harm onto others. And you are punishing yourself when you have those sinful, harmful thoughts going out because they manifest within your own physical body. And therefore your own physical body is a creation of your own making. Nobody made your body in the condition that it is but you. And this is done through your thinking and through what you're consuming. But if your body is breaking down, if you have dis-ease in your body or you have some type of ailment, it does not matter if there's a actual physical component that you're like, oh, well, I have this physical component, so of course I'm supposed to be suffering here. Well, no, the only reason that you have it in the first place was because of some emotional cause. And therefore you can heal your body. You can heal your body by healing your mind. You cannot reverse the karma that you've put out. You will have to pay for the karma that you have put out. But karma works both ways. It's good and it's negative. But I mean, everything is a gift from the spirit. So essentially it all works towards the positive, even if you're currently experiencing the negative. So how can you store up for yourself treasures in heaven? I'll tell you exactly how. It's the simplest thing that you can possibly do. With your thoughts, with your words, and with your actions, you create heaven. You literally see it. You literally create it. So this is how I do it. I'm driving down the street. I happen to live currently right now in Joplin, Missouri for the moment. And as I live here, I just love getting in my car and going for a drive. And as I'm driving down the street, it's beautiful this time of year. The leaves are still green. It's still very nice. And so as I'm driving down the street, I am expecting, constantly, always expecting to see heavenly, beautiful things. And therefore I do. When I go out about my day, I expect heavenly, wonderful things to happen. I expect myself to meet with people who are going to bring wonderful energy into my life. If I'm going to a meeting, am I expecting that, oh, this is going to be a boring meeting? No, I'm living in heaven. All my meetings feel heavenly. And if I expect them not to, then they will not. But when I expect them to, then they do. It is all your thoughts, it's everything that you're putting out constantly. So think about this. You go throughout your day. Now you leave, you go to work, or maybe you don't leave, maybe you don't go to work, maybe you just go and you work on some kind of project throughout your day. What does it feel like being in the frequency of your day? If you were to judge it on a scale of 1 to 100, if 100 was like, man, I feel like I'm living in heaven, and 1 was, I feel like I'm living in hell, what frequency, what percent, what frequency is most of your day at? What frequency? Is it at 39%, 79%, 99%? Okay, once you get your answer, then why? Why is that the result? What is it? What is it that, do you go to work and the whole time you're thinking, oh, I don't want to be here? That sounds like hell. That'll lower the frequency. Why is it at that? What is missing that is not allowing that to be at 100%? What needs to change? Now, as soon as you figure this out, and I'm going to tell you, I'm pretty sure that I know, a lot of it has to do with the way that you're thinking about it. Now, maybe if you're going to work and you don't like your work, maybe you don't like it, maybe you love it, but maybe you think it doesn't provide enough financially for you. Maybe you think that, and so it starts to build up a bit of resentment that you're like, you know what, I do like my job, but dang, like I just wish I could get paid this much for it. And so then it creates a bit of hell because you're not accepting what is right now. Maybe maybe you feel satisfied. Maybe you've got it all. Maybe you got the money and the this and the that, but you feel like some element of it is missing, and so it feels like hell. It feels hellish. It's not, you're not living in heaven. Well, let me tell you the deal. If you feel like something's missing, that there's some area that needs to be filled, you can't fill it with that thing that you think that it's the thing. What you do is you fill it with your frequency of that thing first, and then that thing will come to you. So what I mean by this is, let's say that you've got it all, but you don't have the relationship that you want. You're like, oh, I got all these things, everything's lined up, but I don't have it. I don't have that thing. Okay. If that was the case, what would that feel like if you did have that? Sit in that. It'd be comforting. You'd feel supported. You'd feel, I don't know, how would you feel? And then when you can meditate on that and you can sit in that, and this is not some hopeful, wishful nothing. This is you creating it. You reap as you sow. This is you creating it here in the now, in this moment. This is not wishful thinking. This is not, oh, I hope this. This is, no, this feels this way. This is how it would feel. And it feels this way right now because I'm bringing this feeling into myself right now. And it is through doing that that you shift your frequency. Because you don't need that thing that you're like, oh, but I want that thing. You actually don't need it. What it is that you want, what it is that you really want is the feeling of that thing. Right? People think, oh, I just want to win, $70 million. Okay, well, what you really want, though, is the freedom that brings. You want the feeling of that. Well, first of all, I don't ever have to work again. I can go and do whatever I want whenever I want to do it. It's the feeling, it's the freedom of it that you want. Because trust me, all those celebrities who have, off themselves, I don't even want to speak about them, but this is what I'm saying. people believe that, oh, if I won this or I did that, I'm going to just feel so satisfied. It's not going to change a thing for you, honey. The only thing that's going to change is temporarily you'll get distracted. Like, we have many things that temporarily can distract us, but if you were unhappy before, you were certainly going to be unhappy after, because it does not buy happiness. And that thing that you think that you want, that you're like, oh, I have it all, but I want that relationship. Maybe that's not the thing either. You just want the feeling that comes with it. That's what you want, is you want that feeling that you think that that thing is going to give you. So I'm telling you, in order to get that thing that you want, you have to be in that feeling first. It's like having faith. You know, they say, oh, just have faith. And people say, well, if I saw this, then I'd have faith. And it's like, well, no, that's not how it works. You have to have the faith first, and then you see the thing. This is the exact same. You have to hold within you that frequency first, and then you'll gain that thing. This is what you have to do, but you also have to have room for those things. So what percent of heaven are you living in, and what percent of hell are you living in? Now you might think, oh, it's because once I have that, then my life's going to be a lot more heavenly. I'm telling you, baby, this is not how it works. You have to love it first. You have to love your life first. You have to create the heaven first. You have to believe in it without any doubt, and then you'll see it. So when you cleanse your consciousness, meaning you're letting go of all those low frequency, those low vibe thoughts. Let's go with just the thoughts first. As you let go of those things, well, what happens? Everything gets replaced. Right? Everything gets replaced with some type of new energy. So if you let go of the low vibrational thoughts, well, what are you going to replace them with? More low thoughts? Well, certainly not. You just got rid of those. Naturally, you're going to replace them with higher frequency thoughts. Now, some people have a hard time with this because they haven't healed something within themselves. Some people have a hard time with this because they believe that they have healed something that they actually haven't. I see this almost all the time. People come into my office. Of course, they tell me, as it says right there on my website, that I'm usually the last resort. They've tried absolutely everything else, and it's like, well, I could have saved you a whole heck of a lot of money if you would have come to me first, but I'm glad that they don't. I'm glad that I'm the last resort, because then they know they have exhausted all of their resources. And they know, okay, this has to work. And the fun thing is that it does. So when they come to me, they've probably gone to therapy for years. Maybe not. Some people haven't, but many have. And I hear this over and over and over again. Wow, I really thought that I had resolved all of that stuff that came up. Everybody thinks this. Everybody thinks. I talked it out with a therapist, and you know what? I'm not even going to go there, but I'm going to tell you, for the most part, it's pretty useless if you're not doing subconscious healing, because we could consciously talk about things all day, but until you go into that beautiful subconscious mind of yours, that's where the real healing is done, which is why my business, my company, is called The Real Healing Institute, because we use real healing with divine love and the subconscious mind. It's soul healing. That's what we do. And so people think, oh, this is resolved. I'm not, I've forgiven this person. I don't feel this way anymore. And then I take them back and regress their current issue that they have going on. And none of those things that they thought were resolved. And so then we resolve them. And it is through that, first of all, this takes you to a deep level of awareness. I don't know if you've ever had an experience where you gained deeper understanding and awareness, but what I do with my clients, this provides that. So we go into the subconscious mind, and pretty soon all of this stuff comes up, and then we heal it, and we truly resolve it, and then the person actually feels different, and they have now actually cleared that old energy from their body. because they were holding on to it. Every time I'm like, what color's the energy? It's a color, it's a place, they're holding it, it's in their body. This could be something that happened when they were 2 years old. It could be something that happened before they were ever even born. It could be something that happened a long time ago in their life. And that bit of energy, or maybe a huge bit of that energy, is still contained within their auric field, within their energy system, within their body. They're holding it within themselves. Eventually, this will cause a breakdown or a disease or an ailment within their body, but if this is, maybe only been 20 years and it's just some emotional turmoil, their physical body might be just fine, but they're still holding it within their energy system that underlies the body. And so every time that they think about this issue, because your thoughts are the activator, they're the electrical impulse, and every time that they think about this, they're lighting up, they're activating that part in their auric field and essentially creating more of it. They are feeding it through their focus. And so what we do with subconscious healing is we cleanse it out. We actually heal it. We actually remove that energy from the body system by healing the mind, by dealing with the reason why that came up in the first place, the hurtful incident, the traumatic event, the words that were spoken, whatever it was, gaining clarity around that event, and then bringing true healing to it, which usually involves a perspective change. And the older self, the present self, the self in the now, to come in to assist and help the younger version of themselves that needed that extra care and love and support at that time. They now get it. They now gain it. And through that healing of that inner child, real true soul healing, miraculous outcomes are just pervasive. That's the result. Is it feels miraculous. It's like, how could this happen? Is this some kind of magic? This is what real healing is. It's actual real healing. And it doesn't take years, and it doesn't take months, and it doesn't take lifetimes. Yes, we need to go through things. For me, man, my healing, mine did take years, but that's because I was working at it, maybe one session a month. I wasn't working with myself. I was working with somebody else. That makes a difference. But these things are not something that you need to go and talk to somebody every single week for years and years and on and on and on. Now, what are we doing? Are we resolving one issue? That's going to be real quick, like real quick. But do we want to get rid of all the hell? Well, that's going to take some time. That is going to take some mind control, and that takes learning, right? To gain control of your mind. And we can have bad days. We're the ones who instigated them in the first place through our frequency that we put out at some time in the past. It has to come back to us. So yeah, we're allowed to have bad days. In fact, we need to have them. We need to have those down days. We need to have the days when we rest and we don't do nothing. We need to have those days when we can just, be sad and feel sorry for ourselves for whatever reason. We can do that, but we don't need to extend this into days and weeks and months and years. No. You can have your pity party and you can feel sad for your half an hour or your hour and a half or your 2 hours or whatever it is that you need to do. And then after that, if you could switch to the frequency of thankfulness, of knowing whatever it is that I'm sad about right now, I know it has a purpose, because I've been going through things in the past, and those past things that I didn't enjoy at the time panned out and they led me to where I was, and so obviously those things needed to happen, so I'm thankful for those things. And so if you can remember that and remind yourself of that when you're in the middle of that, whatever it is that you're going through, if you can remind yourself to be thankful because something good is coming for you in the future because of what you are going through or having to let go of, or whatever it is, the letting go, I don't know. If you can be thankful for it in the now, it'll shift things for you. It'll change things for you, and it will just enliven you and make you feel so much better. Rapidly, real quick. But if you're stuck in a victim mentality of this thing happened to me. And trust me, baby, I know. I know. It sucks. It sucks when something extreme happens. I've been there. I have complete understanding. I don't know what your specific thing is, but I've gone through what I would consider, I've been through many, 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 many things. And I've been through the one that broke my heart the most. And it was that thing that I wanted to off myself. I didn't want to be here anymore. I couldn't even take it anymore. It was like, my life is over. This is what I thought my life was, and it's not. And it was just earth shattering. And this lasted for me for months, but it led to enlightenment because I had to heal myself, because I wanted to off myself. I wanted to end it. And it was like I had no choice but to seek and find healing through it. And so it was the greatest gift. This is like, I had someone come to me for physical healing, and not only did he heal, but he had been suffering for years and years and years and years and years with this. Years and years and years. And he was in my office so thankful that he had suffered for such a long time. He walked in my office that morning and he was suffering, and he was so thankful for it because it made him seek the love of the divine. And through his healing, it was his faith that healed him and brought him all the goodness. And had he not been suffering in the first place, he wouldn't have been seeking those means, and he wouldn't have found that extreme bond and closeness and trust that he gained with the divine when the divine healed him. There's nothing more powerful than experiencing a miraculous healing yourself and knowing that it was the love of the divine that healed you. There's nothing more bonding. From that moment forward, I felt it, I experienced it, I knew it because I've been there. I recognized it, that frequency of no doubt. And it is the most powerful frequency, in my opinion, that exists. Because at that moment, you are in 100% alignment with divine love. And this man experienced this. And previous to this, I'm assuming that he had not experienced this ever, or he wouldn't have been sick in the first place. So him having that pain within his body was such a wonderful gift, because it led, forcing him to by all means find real healing for himself. Same thing that happened with me when I went through the terrible, awful thing that was now the most wonderful blessing I've ever received in my life. Thank you for that beautiful gift of darkness. It forced me to heal, because it was either that or die. And that wasn't an option. I mean, I have children. And honestly, if I didn't, I don't know how that would have panned out. Because it was so hard to go through. I didn't want to wake up tomorrow and go through it again. I didn't want to wake up the next day and go through it again. It was like, how do I do this? But I made it. And then at some point I left and thought, I gotta heal this for real. I gotta forgive. I gotta these things, because I was just drowning under the weight of it. And when I went off, I found enlightenment. Sure, it took several weeks being out in the woods by myself, out of my cabin on a lake. Through studying, through meditation, through yoga, through seeking that divine alignment and enlightenment. This was what I went there for. And because it was my intention, this is what I gained from it. So even if you're going through some difficult something right now, the sooner that you can be thankful for it, the better off you'll be. Because something good is going to come from it, if that's your intent around it. But I've known people, and I think that these people exist in our life to show us that if we don't heal that, that's how we're going to end up. But you might meet someone who 20 years later, 40 years later, 60 years later is still harboring resentment towards somebody else, maybe a marriage that failed. And they're still on about that person. And it's been how many years and they're still playing the victim. This person is not seeking any means of healing. They're hoping to find some relief by speaking about it, by, here, get on my side. Look at this terrible thing that's happened to me. Please tell me you're on my side. So, right, I'm a victim of this. How dare that person do this to me? And they can go their whole life playing that victim role, and it's not doing them any favors. Find the reason why. What did you do? What did you fear? What did you believe? What did you do to someone in the past that now allowed that thing to come back to harm and hurt you? Sometimes people don't know, and if it was something that happened when you were real little, it could be a past life. But I'm not saying that if you were abused as a child that you deserved it. No, you didn't. And I've seen so much of this in my office. Poor little children. But what had to happen? You know what? If that was you, you're a powerful, strong person now because of it. In comparison, I'm telling you, in comparison, you are stronger and you are way more powerful than someone that did not go through that. And so some of us in our life needed to gain that strength and that power so that we could get through our life and pursue and do that thing that we are meant to do while we're here. And so it had to happen in this way. And if you could look back and you could be thankful and you could think, you know what, man? I sure learned how to be a good parent by learning what not to do. And you now today are the most wonderful parent because of what you went through. What a wonderful gift you have now given your children. What a beautiful blessing of showing them real true love. Compassionate love. What a blessing you have been, and you will be blessed because of it. Who knows, maybe you would have not been that way. Maybe you would have been a neglectful parent. Maybe you would have been I don't know. But through what you went through and realizing, I absolutely don't want that for my kids, you created a better world for them in the today. Maybe that thing that ended way back then allowed you then to have this opportunity and this job that you would have never pursued, you would have never done, it would have never come to you, had that other thing not fallen apart. There's always blessings everywhere if you look. And when you get in the frequency of heaven, that real frequency of, man, everything's just great. I'm expecting wonderful, miraculous things to happen because we're living in heaven right now. We're creating an era of love and peace, and it's our ever-loving thought that's a transforming influence on this planet. And if you look around and you expect your days to be heavenly, and you truly actually expect them to be heavenly, then they will. And you're putting out this vibe, so this is how I operate. Okay, what kind of beautiful animals are we going to see walking through the backyard here today? I don't know, but they're going to be heavenly. They're going to be magical. I asked for some deer to come the other night. They didn't come that evening, which I was actually surprised at. I haven't seen any since I lived here for a year and a half. I haven't seen any walk through the yard, but I called them in the evening that would be nice to see some deer. That's how I call things in. Well, did they appear that night? No. Did they appear the very next morning, 6 of them in the backyard? Yes. And they have come every morning since. Previous to that, an entire year and a half of living here, they did not come here. Why did they appear? Because I expected it. I called them in. I used my words. First of all, I thought of it. Then I used my spoken words. And then I just expected it. And Then they came traipsing through the backyard, 6 of them. Beautiful. We're the creators. We are the creators. So when you expect something to happen, it's going to happen. But for the most part, most people expect something negative to happen, and they're right. But it's their expectations that are being realized. It is not that this negative thing always happens to me, so it happens to you because of your belief in it and the power that you give it through your thoughts and your words and your actions. So if you can believe something different, believe differently, then you'll get different results. Your expectations do become realized. So had I ended my previous relationship and expected that past would come back to hurt and burden and wound me, then it would, and it did. My expectations become realized. So then one day I realized, like, wow, there was a shift that occurred, and I just realized all of a sudden, wow, I'm valuable. Why did I think for 1 second that I wasn't? Why was I allowing something that I didn't want to take place? And I just snapped out of it. And then everything changed for me. And I realized, oh no, I'm not settling for what I don't want. No, that's not going to happen. That's never going to happen. Forever, what it is that I do want will seek me out and will find me. And that's exactly what's been happening. Because I expected it, because I believed in it, because I changed something in myself. I had been on a frequency of not high enough expectations, I guess. Looking back, I'm not exactly sure, but I'm definitely more in alignment now than I was previous to the now. And this is why all these wonderful things and all these wonderful opportunities have been just lining up at my door, walking through my front door. And it's because of my expectations, because I cleared away the old. And I was told when I gained that very first enlightenment, so this is several years ago now, I was told that my karma was cleared, done, clear. When you reach that moment of divine enlightenment, the 100% pure, you're on the divine frequency. It was then, that time, actually it was maybe the day previous. Was it the day previous? Or the day after? This is years ago now I can't remember. But that I was told very clearly through one of the downloads that my karma was clear. And so I can create whatever it is that I need for myself. So I hold myself in a very high frequency every day. I make sure that I'm off to work, I'm doing this, I'm in my car, I'm like, this is weird. Why am I not smiling right now? Something must be going on. This would be a very rare occurrence if I wasn't happy or smiling in my car. That would be very weird. And so I would think, what's going on? What is this about? And then what do? I work to heal that, to let that go. Because whatever it is, whatever thought, whatever reason, the reason why there would be maybe sadness that was there, it would because it would be associated with the thought that I was having. So what thoughts are associated? What am I sad about? Okay. And then I would deal with that. And I would not allow myself to stay in that low frequency for any length of time, knowing that the longer that I'm in this frequency, the more of that I'm storing up for myself in the future. And I don't want that. That's not something that needs to be part of my life. So I want to create the heaven all the time. So what do? If I want to be sad, I'm going to allow myself to be sad for whatever length of time I need. It's usually probably just a minute or two. And then I'm going to shift that frequency by thinking about, well, usually this is how I do it. I just start to get real excited because I think every time that this has happened in the past, anytime I've been, that there's been anything sad or negative or some kind of hard day, it's like the next day is even better than all of the previous days. It's like, okay, there's some kind of upgrade that's going on here. There's something else that needs to be let go of that's holding on within my energy system. And as soon as I let that go, I've freed up all that space and I have made more space that I can create even more wonderful love, even more heavenly frequencies in my life. And at some point I'm like, I don't think I can upgrade anymore. I don't even know that it's possible, but it always is. It always is, and it will come from like a kind of a down day, and then the next day it's like, oh, there we go. I thought I was up on this high platform all the way up here, but I guess the platforms have no end. They go on for always and always and always. You can just keep going up. You can just keep getting better. And so creating that frequency of heaven, this is what we all want. And all you got to do is let go of everything that it isn't. So if there's someone you need to forgive, if there's some resentment that you've got, if there's some anger, if there's something that you need to make right, then do it. It's really as simple as that. Just do it. Work on it. Take a moment, day by day, do it. And as you heal that thing, you're making space within your energy system for all the goodness, for every good and wonderful thing. Thanks for tuning in today, guys. Love you so much. Hope that you take care. And I will see you guys in tomorrow's video. Have a good night.